For decades, U.S. presidents have claimed to be the ultimate power brokers in the Middle East. But when Donald Trump returned to the world stage with his renewed political ambition, many believed it would be business as usual. Support for Israel, isolation of Iran, and tough talk toward Arab powers. Except this time something felt different. Donald Trump's latest diplomatic tour across the Middle East sent shockwaves through both Washington and Jerusalem. His stops in Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, and Doha didn't just represent a regional outreach. They marked a striking absence: no visit to Israel. The message wasn't loud, but it was clear. The Trump doctrine had evolved. Why would the most pro-Israel president in recent memory seemingly distance himself from America's traditional ally? The answer lies in the new calculus Trump seems to be betting on. One driven not by ideology or alliances, but by cold, transactional logic. Peace, power, and profit. When Trump met with leaders from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, it wasn't for symbolic handshakes or hollow photo ops. It was for deals. Big ones. The United States inked a $142 billion arms agreement with Riyadh, a $2 trillion investment pledge from Abu Dhabi, and energy talks in Doha that could realign the world's liquefied natural gas supply chains. This wasn't diplomacy for democracy, it was diplomacy for dividends. But perhaps more telling was who wasn't at the table. In previous administrations, especially during Trump's first term, Israel would have been front and center. From moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem to recognizing Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, Trump had positioned himself as Benjamin Netanyahu's strongest ally. So why the sudden cooling? For starters, the war in Gaza has taken a devastating humanitarian toll, and even Trump, never known for his restraint, is hearing the political cost. American voters, especially younger ones, are increasingly critical of Israeli policies, and Trump's inner circle knows it. His recent statements have subtly shifted tone, criticizing Israel for allowing famine to be used as a weapon by blocking humanitarian aid. That kind of language hasn't been heard from an American president, past or present, in years. What's more, Trump has begun engaging with actors that Israel sees as hostile enemies. He's opened indirect lines with the Houthis in Yemen, eased sanctions on Assad's regime in Syria, and signaled openness to new nuclear talks with Iran. These are moves that would have been unthinkable during his first term. And Israel is noticing. According to insiders in Jerusalem, Netanyahu's government feels increasingly sidelined. Trump's decision not to stop in Tel Aviv was interpreted as more than a scheduling issue. It was a statement. For a leader like Netanyahu, who had once boasted of his close friendship with Trump, the silence is deafening. But the most controversial piece of Trump's strategy may be his proposed Gaza Riviera plan, a blueprint to transform the Gaza Strip into a luxurious beachfront resort region, effectively relocating Palestinians to neighboring Arab countries and replacing refugee camps with casinos, hotels, and artificial lagoons. Critics have called the plan a form of ethnic cleansing disguised as urban renewal. Trump, he called it the deal of the millennium. Despite international backlash, Trump remains defiant. "We're not just going to rebuild Gaza, we're going to reimagine it," he said in a recent interview. "The Palestinians will have better jobs, better homes, and better lives. It's a win-win." But a win for whom? In Washington, the reactions have been mixed. Traditional hawks see Trump's outreach to Syria and Iran as reckless appeasement. Progressives see his Gaza plan as morally bankrupt. Yet within parts of the Arab world, there's cautious optimism. For regimes that value stability and economic growth above ideology, Trump's pitch makes a strange kind of sense. Take the UAE, for example. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed sees opportunity in chaos. His country is pouring money into the region, not just for oil deals, but for influence. Trump's transactional approach aligns perfectly with that vision. No talk of human rights. No lectures on democracy. Just mutual benefit. That's where Trump may be charting a new path. Unlike previous presidents who tried to play peacekeeper or moral guardian, Trump has no interest in pretending. He's not trying to solve the Middle East. He's trying to strike deals. And in a region weary of broken promises and shifting alliances, that honesty might be worth something. But where does that leave Israel? Some believe Trump is playing a long game, that he's temporarily distancing himself to reset expectations, only to return with a bigger offer later. Others believe the Trump-Netanyahu relationship has run its course. Without political advantage, Trump may no longer see Israel as the centerpiece of his Middle East strategy. What's clear is this: the old playbook is gone. Trump's new approach rejects traditional alliances and favors flexible partnerships. He's willing to negotiate with enemies if the price is right. He's willing to criticize allies if they become a liability. And he's more focused on Gulf capital than on Knesset votes. This doesn't mean Trump has turned against Israel. It means he's betting on a different future for the region. One where oil, investment, and infrastructure matter more than ideology or religion. In that future, even longtime friends have to prove their worth. So is Trump abandoning Israel? Not entirely. But he's reminding the world that loyalty isn't free. And in Trump's world, everything is negotiable. And in many ways, that's the essence of Trumpism 2.0. A foreign policy less about permanence and more about performance. If you produce results, you stay in the room. If not, you get cut out. No matter how long you've been at the table. That philosophy applies to NATO, to the UN, and now it seems even to Israel. There's no denying the unease this creates within Israel's leadership. Benjamin Netanyahu, once hailed as Trump's closest international ally, is now navigating unfamiliar terrain. His government is watching Trump cozy up to Arab capitals that once viewed Israel as their existential enemy, and they're doing so without Israeli input. It's not that Israel has become irrelevant, but in Trump's recalibrated vision, it's no longer the gravitational center. In private, Israeli officials have expressed growing concern that the United States might eventually push for a regional settlement without Jerusalem's consent, especially if Arab leaders offer lucrative deals in return. And given Trump's love for the art of the deal, that's not far-fetched. But Trump doesn't see this as betrayal. In his mind, it's modernization. He believes the old Cold War-style alliances are outdated, and the future lies in dynamic, interest-based coalitions. If Saudi Arabia and the UAE can provide investment, counter-terrorism cooperation, and strategic energy deals, then their voices deserve weight, perhaps even more than ideological partners. His calculus is purely pragmatic. Who can deliver? This question extends beyond diplomacy. In Trump's mind, economics is foreign policy. A nation's usefulness isn't measured by shared values, but by mutual gain. And that's why Gulf capitals are now his priority. Unlike Israel, which is often embroiled in global controversy, the Gulf states are flush with cash and eager to build. They offer Trump something rare in politics: clean optics. Construction projects, financial summits, glittering skylines. These are Trump's language. They're tangible, profitable, and photogenic. In contrast, the Israel-Palestine conflict is messy, generational, and emotionally charged. There are no quick wins, no flashy ribbon cuttings. Trump would rather cut deals that show visible results: roads built, pipelines signed, new cityscapes inaugurated. Still, some within Trump's own party are uneasy about the shift. Evangelical conservatives, one of Trump's key voter blocs, have long held unwavering support for Israel, often citing biblical prophecy. A softening stance toward Jerusalem could create friction. But Trump seems willing to bet that economic prosperity and global influence will be a stronger message heading into 2028. It's also worth noting that Trump has not burned bridges entirely. His administration continues back-channel discussions with Israeli officials. There are still military cooperation programs and intelligence-sharing operations ongoing. But the tone has changed. It's less about unbreakable bond, and more about prove your value. Even on Capitol Hill, some senators are beginning to echo Trump's pragmatism. One senior Republican lawmaker recently said, "We support Israel, but that doesn't mean we follow them blindly. It's time for a more balanced regional strategy." Such sentiments would have been political suicide just a few years ago. But that's the world Trump is building. In this new order, Israel is still a player, but not the only player. Arab states are rising in influence not because they've reformed dramatically, but because they offer what Trump wants: capital, contracts, and cooperation. In many ways, Trump sees the Gulf monarchies as kindred spirits. Leaders who value power, control, and wealth. Leaders who don't complicate negotiations with democratic messiness. And then there's China. Trump is deeply aware that China is extending its influence across the Middle East through infrastructure projects and trade deals. The Belt and Road Initiative has crept into Iraq, Iran, and the Horn of Africa. By partnering with Arab states on similar economic ventures, Trump believes he can push back against Beijing's growing dominance. It's a new form of containment, one based not on military bases, but on business opportunities. Israel doesn't fit easily into that equation. While it remains a high-tech powerhouse and a critical intelligence ally, it doesn't offer the same kind of regional economic leverage. And for Trump, leverage is king. This doesn't mean Trump is writing Israel off. But it does mean that Netanyahu can no longer expect the automatic, unwavering support he once enjoyed. The relationship has matured, and with maturity comes conditionality. Moving forward, Israel may find itself having to sell its value to Trump just like any other regional partner. That's a dramatic shift from past decades, where Israeli interests often shaped American policy in the region. For now, Trump remains tight-lipped about future visits to Jerusalem. When asked directly, he deflects. "We're always in touch. We've got great friends there," he said recently. But actions speak louder than words, and right now, his feet are firmly planted in the Gulf. The geopolitical chessboard is being redrawn, and Trump is no longer playing by the old rules. He's flipping the board, stacking the pieces, and reshaping alliances based on one unchanging principle. What's in it for America? That may sound transactional, even cold. But for Trump, it's clarity. And in a world increasingly governed by chaos, clarity is power. Israel isn't out of the game. But if it wants to stay close to Trump's White House, it may need to start thinking more like Abu Dhabi, and less like Tel Aviv. Because in this new era, friendship doesn't mean favoritism. It means business.